Hey, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Amazon Seller. And I am your host, Prof Sales. Glad you are here. This is a live show, but if you're watching the recording, welcome. And if you're live, welcome. It is October 29th, 2021. So we are off and running into the last 2 months of the year, are just around the corner, a couple days from now. We're into Q4, obviously. We're in the first month of Q4. So it's a busy time of year. But I definitely want to take some time to share some things with you guys. Most of all, about sales and profit and things like that. So hopefully some people will join in live for this as we start here. Please let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay, if the sound is good, yada, yada, yada. And yeah, so it's going to be a good day. We're going to talk about some stuff. All right. So what is going on? Well, let me talk to you about this subject for a moment. A lot of people on YouTube will tell you you should sell on Amazon, you should sell on eBay, whatever platform. And you'll look at all these sales that I made. I made, $5,000. I made $10,000. I made $20,000, whatever the amount is. But the real question is not so much what did you sell, but it's more if you made any money or not. Did you make any profit? And a lot of times, a lot of people are selling on the platform and they're not making any real profit. And I will say that selling on Amazon, for instance, it's hard to make profit on Amazon because you can easily get eaten up by fees, by the race to the bottom with people who are, shall we say, trying to run the price down and so on. And I found myself in that dilemma before too, just trying to really get things sold, but at the same time make enough money to make it worth it. What's worth it? I've heard it said before, if you spend $100 on something you make $101, then you're profitable. Well, yeah, you are technically, but what did that $1 cost you to make? Well, it cost you a risk of $100. That's probably not really a reasonable amount of money that people would want to risk. I mean, would you want to risk $100 just to make one? It's a 1% return. It's pretty crappy. You could get a 1% return on your money or even better in a lot of other places. So I think that it's really about what are you selling, and then how much are you making in relation to that amount of sales, and is that worth it? And for a lot of times on Amazon, the answer to that can be no, it's not worth it, because there's certain categories and so on that just benefit from scale. For instance, like, if you're selling a lot of something, you can make decent money in it. But if you're only selling a few and it doesn't have a very high profit margin, you're really not making that much, and you're probably going to go broke. Who wants to go broke? Not me. What's up, Mark? Mark in the chat. So I wanted to break this down a little bit for this month for my sales and maybe you guys. I'm going to take you inside of my inventory lab. I'm going to show you what I've done, this month so far. And then just really break down the profit and the expenses and all that a little bit more without going into crazy detail, just so you guys can, so you can get a feel for this and to see if this is something that really makes sense for you or not. So we're going to be doing some screen shares with this. Let me see if I can get this up here in a second. All right. So I want to show you guys, this is my inventory lab, and I'm actually going to make this full screen so you can see this a little bigger. And if you guys haven't used Inventory Lab before, you should. It's great. It's a great program. It allows you to have a sourcing application, Scoutify. It also enables you to use their prep and ship program, which is actually called Stratify, I think. And then it allows you to do all your accounting and all that good stuff in here. But I wanted to share this with you because this screen is under the accounting FBA sales screen. and it's going to default to a certain time frame, but you can go in here and you can do an advanced search. You can see I've set this one up for the beginning of October through today. So you know this is accurate, up-to-date information. And what you can see over here is you can see that I've sold basically 257 sale items in that time frame. And then everything is in columns. It can be sorted in these columns by date, profit status, which reconcile just means that the person's paid for it. It's good. You're going to get your money. And then how many, the order price, my buy cost, and then the net profit and the profit percentage and ROI percentage. And you can also export all this, which I'm going to show you that in a moment. So it really does a great job allowing you to see where your money's going. Now, down here at the very bottom, let me turn off the ticker real quick because that's probably blocking you guys a little bit. Let me hide that. All right. So down here at the very bottom, you're going to see that you've got your, let me see if I can get this to be a little bit better for you guys. I realize that that's kind of hidden down there. Okay, let's do it this way. Yeah. That's better. So you can see that you have your average order price. And then also, if you hover over this, it shows you that's like you see your net profit too, which in this case is 25% of revenue. Your fees and commissions, which is 26%. And then we have our cost of goods sold, which is 48%. I would like that cost of goods sold to be a bit lower. I feel like that's a bit high for me, but it's a work in progress. We're getting there. What's up, Aaron, Scott? How you guys doing? We're just sharing some numbers here. So it really breaks all this down for you. And I'm going to slide this over just a little bit. Sorry, I didn't realize the ticker was going to cover it up like that. And you can, like I said, you can click on these columns and see what your percentages were. So if you wanted to see, all right, what have I bought that's really cost me the least? Well, I had a bunch of books, some books here that were only a penny. I had this item that was $1.07, a pair of pants that sold for 40. Sold for 40, paid $1.07. That's a pretty good margin. And so on and so forth. And then if you click it again, it shows you the most expensive. So I bought these boots, these muck boots for $84 and they sold for $117. So I only made $761 on that. That's not such a great buy. I don't think that's really a good business model to be risking 85 to make $7. And then so on and so forth. So that's by buy cost. And you can see my more expensive items. I got some Sam Edelman shoes here. I got some Cole Haan shoes that I found. These were really good. And Altra, different brands, a lot of shoes right now. These are all new items, gang, by the way. None of this is pre-owned and so on. Then over here, if we click on the net profit, we can see, well, you're going to lose money on some items, guys. Now you want to keep that percentage down. You can see here that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 items that I have lost money on. So if we do a little bit of math here and we say 7 divided by 257, right, is 2.7% of my items I've lost money on. I don't know if that's a good number or not. You can make your own determination. I think that's decent. You're going to lose money sometimes for various reasons. I could probably go through and tell you all the reasons I lost money on these. I didn't lose big, except maybe on these 2 bras right here. These 2 bras, these Natori Recharge sports bras, I bought these back in March, maybe even earlier than that. And they were a great deal. They were on sale at Nordstrom Rack. They were selling well. And then just a tremendous number of people jumped on the listing. And you can see here, I sold them for $25.84 and paid $28.92. So that was not so great. I did get some money back on them, but it certainly was not a good situation. But I priced these down low and just got rid of them. I could have sold them on eBay, but they really would have sold for about the same thing, maybe a little less. And they certainly wouldn't have sold as easily. So these Natori bras, I had to kind of just dump. I did sell a bunch that were profitable, but some were not. You can also, by the way, I forgot to mention up here, you could search up here. So like if you wanted to see all the Nike items and so on, you could do that. Looks like I didn't have any Nike that it sold this month. Oh, that's interesting. So let's go back in. I'm going to make sure that let me make sure my time is right. Yep. All right. Oh, I see why I didn't do that right. I'm sorry, gang. Let me put Nike, and then I forgot, put the title of the item. And let's see if I have any now. Yep, there we go. Okay, I was like, I knew I sold some Nike this month. So if you want to go in and look at like a particular brand, like I sold a bunch of these Nike items. Not a lot of profit actually in Nike other than this one here, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But yeah, and part of the reason that the Nike wasn't so great is all these right here, these 5 or 6 right here, I used the first 5. I used those first 5 socks to get ungated in Nike. So I basically bought them at, from a supplier, submitted all my invoices and so on, and then got ungated in Nike. So I basically just broke even in them, which is, that's a cost of doing business, but I wanted to get Nike, period. But even down here though, I wasn't making a whole ton. So I need to reassess my Nike selling. It looks like a little bit, an average profit of 1067 per sale, which is okay, but I think I could do better than that. All right. So, all right, going back. So let's go to the profit percentage here for a moment. Now you can see over here, because we started with the ones that were negative, I obviously had a negative percentage on these, but then after that, it's all positive and so on and so forth, and keeps going up. So if we flip this around and do it by the highest first, you'll see some better ones like this Nike shoe. I paid very little for it and sold it for quite a bit. This one, if I remember right, part of the reason I paid so little for it, you can see here, the buy cost was only $3.35. I paid so little for it because that was all Kohl's cash, guys. I believe that was a Kohl's item, and I had all Kohl's cash. And that cost you see right there was literally just part of the shipping cost. That was it. That was my only expense. I literally got these for, technically I didn't get them for nothing because I bought something else that got me the Kohl's cash. But it's really good profit when you can do that. I think if I put the ROI in here, this one's even better. Or some of these, this one, this one's better. Oh, because it's a book. I'm sorry. I actually got that book for free. So I put in 1 penny. It has the highest ROI. But you can see here, like, these Nike items were really good. This pair of koi, these were scrubs. So I bought those for $2 and sold for 43. The Savane I bought for 428. I love Savane pants. We can find them marked down. Here's a freebie for you guys. Prana jeans. If you can find Prana jeans, they are quite profitable. They tend to sell for, as you can see here, 77, 77, 71, 82, 93. The men's are a little bit better than the women's, but not much. 89. Yeah, Prana jeans, good item. If you can find them, and you can find them marked down sometimes in like a second-hand store. So, or second chance rather. And yeah, so going on through all this, this is a great way to like go through and figure out, what was selling for you, what you actually made money on, and then what you didn't make so much money on. Then once you export it, you can do a little bit more with it because this is what the export of all that looks like. So if I hit export, so you can see it's got all your data here and so on, yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to put a filter on here. I'm going to highlight the top row. I'm going to put a filter on. And then you can filter any of these columns you want. So the one I want to do, though, is I would probably, again, I could go in and do my net profit by high to low if I want, or high to low in this case. My profit percentages, ROI, actual dollars, because your actual net profit dollars might not, the highest amount of net profit might not be your highest profitable item in terms of percentage. Now, both are good, but in any case, so this is a good tip for you to use, and to just go in and sort all your items. So if we go down here and we're going to highlight all this. And you can see over here, right down here in the bottom, that the sum of that is 3144.83, right? So that's where I basically got the $3,143 profit you see on the title of this video. And again, if you want that program, guys, Inventory Lab, I think you can get a month for free, but there's a link in my description of this video right now. You can go in there. It's an affiliate link. So, hey, helping me out if you get it. Doesn't cost you anything extra. Check it out. Scoutify alone is a great sourcing app. I think when you're out doing arbitrage, you can set all your triggers you want, how much profit you want, what sales ranks, what margin, everything you want in it. And then you can just, when you're scanning, it'll tell you if it's a yes or no, or it's sort of maybe, whatever. I would highly recommend, if you don't have this program, you check it out if you're going to sell on Amazon. I think it's a great starter package. I actually think it's good for even intermediate or advanced people. From what I understand, there are some that do a little bit more, but I think this one's a really good one. So check out Inventory Lab. Yes, I'm hawking my own affiliate link, but that's because I use it. You see, I use it all the time. So, all right. So we've got this $3,100, but is it really $3,100? Well, no. So I can tell you basically what my expenses are going to be this month in terms of other expenses. Well, before I say that, let me say this. So you've got your sales up here, right? And then let's say you do $10,000 in sales, which is great. Then you have your cost of goods, which is what you paid for the items that you sold. Let's say that's $4,000. So now you're down to $6,000. 10,000 minus 4,000, 6,000. Now let's say you got Amazon's fees, which is another $3,000. Let's say. So now you're down to $3,000. Then you're like, haha, I've got $3,000. Well, but wait, what about all the other stuff in your business? What about subscriptions for Inventory Lab? What about travel you did? What about office supplies? What about any eating out? Did you stay over in a hotel somewhere as you went out sourcing? What about your taxes? What about your salary you're paying yourself? Hopefully at some point. What about your business insurance? What about any extra shipping costs you had? What about any contractors if you had anybody doing any work for you? All these things add up too, and they take away from that, $3,100. And so now $3,100 becomes much less. I don't know exactly what my total is going to be for this month yet because the month is not quite done. But before any kind of salaries and so on, I'm looking at my current expenses right now. So I can tell them to you. I have had about $700 in subscription costs this month. Now that sounds like a lot, but remember, I've got the subscriptions for Keepa. I've got them for Inventory Lab, which is about $50. Keepa is about 18, I think. And then Be Cool, which is my repricer. That's another $50 a month. I've got AZ Insight, which is $30 a month, which helps me make good sourcing decisions. I've got all my OA lead list, which is, that's going to end up being like $500 right there, because that's the cost of getting those leads each month. So there's hundreds of dollars of subscription costs every month. Then I've got office supplies of about 110 so far this month. I had to buy some shipping supplies. I had to buy some tape, some labels, yada, yada. I've had some eating out I did while I sourced. That's about $50, so not too bad. I've had taxes to the IRS. Turns out every month you end up paying taxes on, your salaries and so on. That's been about $100. Payroll expense of about $12. Insurance for my business. Amazon requires you to have insurance. That's $57, which is not too bad. And then, there'll be some left for my salaries. Now, so even if you think, all right, well, there's still, like you're saying, Prof, there's like $2,000 left for your salary. Yes and no. because I'm still in a growth phase. So a lot of money I'm still kind of pushing back into the business for inventory for the next month. So now that 3,100 as a salary might end up being only like, because I'm in sort of this growth phase, I might only pay myself, several $100s. And that's probably about what it'll be. So when you see somebody who says, and remember guys, I am right now, I don't know if I have it up in front of me. Let me see if I can bring it up for you. I can show you where I'm at business wise, or sales wise for the month. I can get this to come up. So this has been my best month on Amazon so far, which I am thankful for. Let's see if I can show you. So if I put in here, let's see if I can get this to come up for October. Yeah. So, all right. So this is, man, I'm struggling to get this to come up. So I was going to show you my, here we go. There it is. So this is my actual sales for October so far in the month of Amazon. So you can see I'm at $12,224. $224. And you can actually see I've got 284 units ordered. So the reason why there's a discrepancy between that when I showed you on Inventory Lab is Inventory Lab is about a day behind or so, because things have to reconcile and go through the whole system on Amazon and so on. So you can see with $12,224 in sales, what's going to be left to pay myself a salary after everything at most is a couple $1,000 at most. So it's not like we all getting rich here. I'm trying to be very real with you guys and get you to see that, like, while selling on Amazon is great, you do have to spend a good bit of money to make the business work. It's not a low capital intensive business. And if you get extra money each month, you probably want to be funneling that back into the business so you can keep growing. I'm happy with it. Don't get me wrong. Not in any way, shape, or form am I unhappy with it. But, I see a lot of revenue numbers that get thrown up on YouTube and in selling groups and so on. And I just wonder to myself, like, are you making any profit? Because people don't talk about the profit part of it. So I can tell you here on this $3,100 a month in profit so far, quote unquote, and by the way, it probably won't even be that high, because one of the numbers it's not in that Inventory Lab number that I showed you a moment ago is returns. So there will be returns, and I will have probably, I'll probably have $1,000 in returns for sure, because I'm doing quite a bit of clothing lately. Now the returns get recycled back in and they can be sold again, but they're not an inconsequential amount when you're selling a lot of clothing. And that's true on any platform, really. You're going to get a decent amount of returns because stuff doesn't fit. And that's just the way the game goes. And that's fine. But so you got to take that number and knock off probably 10%, whatever your monthly sales is. Like, well, you're going to lose 10% to returns, maybe even higher, depending on what you're selling. If you're selling like electronics and toys and things like that, it's going to be a much slower percentage. But if it's clothing, it's going to be much higher. Now, I like clothing because you can really find, some monster great deals. For instance, yesterday I found a Columbia jacket that is currently not listed in that size and color because it's out of stock. Nobody has it right now, but it normally sells for $260. And I found it for $100, which is going to be $90 of profit. And it legitimately sells for $260. Like, that's the retail price of it. and I will be the only seller in that color and that size. And there are sales in it. It just recently went out of stock, and there weren't a lot where I found it either. So, you can find some monster items when you're looking at clothing. But if you're selling like toys and things like that, you're doing more of a velocity game, because you're usually not going to make killer profit on any one item. You're just going to sell a whole bunch of them. Electronics, it just depends. It's all over the place. But clothing can have some massive margins sometimes, just because things go off the platform. But there's a lot of returns. So, there's risk and reward with all this. I just want you guys to realize that if you sell, I'm going to say it like this: if you sell, say, $10,000 in a month on Amazon, and you're selling a mixture of some clothing and hard goods and toys and electronics, everything, you're probably, after costs and everything, if you're doing online arbitrage and you're buying list, you're probably not going to make more than maybe $1,500 off of that. 2,000, maybe $2,000, because you've got your expenses to travel around and get it. So I'm not saying you couldn't make some more than that, but you're not going to make $5,000 off of it. It's just not going to happen. Like the money doesn't make sense. Like the amount you've got to pay for it, list cost, Amazon cost, your operating expenses. So you might make a couple grand off of $10,000 a month if you're frugal. I'm going to pay myself less than that this month, because honestly, I want to keep plowing money back in to grow. I'm not looking to do 10,000 a month. I'm looking to do 30. And to do that, I have to keep inventory, flowing back in. I just sent in like a big batch yesterday. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday on Facebook, and a friend of mine, and I said, maybe the goal should be each week you send in enough in profit, even after taking out kind of returns and losing some value from the buy box dropping, that you are sending in at least as much as you'd want to make as a weekly salary in terms of profit. So let's say you want to make $1,000 a week, which is a $52,000 a week, $52,000 a year job. You need to be sending in enough inventory that it will net $1,000 in profit after taking into account returns and the buy box and so on. So I would say, let's say if you send in like $1,500 of profit, that should net you $1,000 without any trouble, even after returns and the buy box dropping and all those good things that happen. Maybe even a little more. Maybe you might make 11. So I would say that's probably a decent goal. So if you can keep sending $1,500 a week in profit, you're going to be basically buying yourself a $52,000 a year job in terms of the profit you're going to make. That's assuming your operating expenses are not crazy. So I hope that was helpful with, kind of the breakdown on how, $3,100 is nice, but it's not really $3,100. It's going to be less than that. Like, I'm not going to put $3,100 in my bank account at the end of October. That's not going to happen. So some people were saying some stuff in here too. Mark said, I've been looking at online discount stores, and there's a lot of stuff, especially in clothing, could be sold. The problem is, would be able to sell these brands on Amazon. Well, that's a good question, Mark. The easy way to figure that out is to go in and just put in one of the brands on Amazon.com. It'll pull up, a bunch of things that are under that brand. Click on one of them, and then get the ASIN and try to get ungated. And see if you can, and then go to Seller Central and go into add a product and see if you can add that product. If it allows you, you're good. If it doesn't, it'll say, hey, you can request to be approved, and you can get an auto approval or an auto denial. The denial will be something like, hey, you either need a letter from the manufacturer or an invoice with a quantity of at least 10. And, then it comes into, well, which ones will work for that, which ones they take, and you have to order it from a supplier. And that can be worth it on big brands like Nike, for instance, because you're gonna find a lot of Nike stuff out there. But other ones, it's like, it's, niche brands, unless you're gonna have a real supply, good supply, you might want to pass on and just try to go for some other brand. But good question. Yeah. So let's see what else is going on here. Paul says, good morning. Hey, Paul, how are you? Yeah, I think, I think, I think there's a critical mass point on Amazon, gang. And I don't know exactly where it is. Like, there's a critical mass in terms of the amount of money you're going to make. And it's based on your sales, because I feel like I'm real close to the critical mass. And let me explain what I mean by the critical mass. Critical mass is, at what point does what you're doing become worth it? And by worth it, I mean it's providing you a decent amount of income. Now, everybody's idea of a decent amount of income is going to be different. Some people, if they're looking to replace their full-time job, need a really high amount. Others, if it's a part-time gig, it can be a lot lower. But for me, I start to get excited. And by excited, I just mean it feels like it's worth it around about $2,000 a month. If you can net $2,000 a month from your business, that's not a huge salary. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's some big salary. It really isn't. It's 24 grand a year, but it's enough to where, like, $2,000 a month, if you have minimal expenses and you don't live in a super expensive area, there's certain places in the country where that would just not even be close to enough. But there's a lot of places where if you're making about $2,000 a month clear, you can do okay. You can live in an apartment or house. You can have a car. You can pay your bills, your food, and all that, as long as you don't have tremendous debts and expenses. So at $2,000 a month, or $2,000 a month, to me, it's like it starts to become, that's where the critical mass hits. So then the question becomes, well, what do you need to sell? How much do you need to sell to make $2,000 a month? Well, it kind of depends. But if you kind of think about a 20 or 25% net margin on Amazon, at 10K a month, 20% of that is $2,000. Excuse me. And 20%, 10 grand, that's $2,000. 25%, you would need 2,500. So I think somewhere around the 10K a month, assuming the expenses aren't too bad, is like where it starts to make sense. So if you can develop a business model where you can sell $10,000 a month on Amazon, you can probably expect to net somewhere around $2,000. Assuming your operating expenses aren't crazy, that might make sense for you. Maybe even a little more than that. If I was doing retail arbitrage only, my profit would be higher. My retail arbitrage business is definitely higher than my OA business, because my OA business is a lower margin, but I can order more quantity and have it come to me, so I don't have the expense of going out to get it, driving, staying overnight in a distant city, whatever. But the RA profit is really good. RA is still a thing, gang. Like, if you're not thing, gang, that rhymed, but it's still a very viable model. Plus, you can get quantity when you're doing it in stores. So it really depends on what model you want. Paul says, I live in Indiana. What we make on eBay and Amazon is probably the top 1% income here. Yeah. And Paul, you live in the Midwest, right? I mean, Indiana is roughly the Midwest, and the Midwest has one advantage of it's still a fairly affordable place to live, most of it. So if you're doing well with your eBay or Amazon business, you're gonna live like a king. So I think that, like, where you live makes a dependence on too. Like, I always learn about, and a lot of you guys know Chris Lynn, who used to be 10K on the Bay, who's now Daily Refinement. And Chris and I, we've known each other for several years now. And one of the things that, like, he lives near San Francisco, which is arguably the most expensive place in the United States. It's right up there. And the cost of living is just like 2.5 times what the national average is. It's crazy. And, when he was talking to me early on about his idea to have at least 10,000 listings up, I thought to myself on eBay, I went, man, that's a lot of listings for a one-man show. I mean, that's a lot to go get. It's a lot to list and prep and send in and ship every day. But, after he was telling me about his situation, his personal situation and living and, with his family situation, I went, and where he lived, I went, oh my gosh, like he's going to be like barely making it even at 10,000 probably. And he knew that. Like he knew, like, I need to scale this up and scale up my entire e-commerce business, all the things I'm doing. And he has, and he's been really successful at it. He's done a really great job. But it took him a grind of steps to get there. Like it took like a year or two to get there. It wasn't like he got there overnight. And part of it was because he lived in such an expensive place. Like he had to have a vision of going really big with his e-commerce business. So, and that's fine. I think a lot of people just, I think a lot of people are, let me stop the screen. I think a lot of people have that situation where they just want to make extra income, and eBay or Amazon or whatever is where they do it. But you need to figure out still, are you not only just making extra income, but are you making profit, and is it really worth it? Because there was somebody brought up another eBay seller the other day on my channel when we had my last show, and they said, this particular person had 30,000 listings up, and they were a one-person gig, and they were all low-dollar listings. They were selling a lot of volume each month, but it was like their average selling price was probably like $9. And I just thought, man, like to sell 1,000 or 2,000 listings every month, like you're packaging 30, 50, 60, 70 items a day and shipping them. That means you're listing that many every single day. You're dealing with those customers. It's like, they're making some money at it, but boy, they have bought themselves a full-time job, a more than full-time job, I would think. And I just thought, like that kind of model for me just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't want to work 60 hours a week. To me, not every dollar is equal. Like, they say that people, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but they say that like once most people in the United States reach around $70,000 to $75,000 a year in income, they're pretty content with their life in terms of finances. It's not that they couldn't have more and do more, but like you can afford all the creature comforts in the vast majority of places in the United States. You're doing pretty well. You're above the median for sure. And then every dollar above that amount is not worth as much as the dollar before it. It's diminishing returns, right? At some point you're like, well, I can make 100, but I'd have to give up all these things. I'd have to sacrifice this and that. And you're like, do I really want to do that? I don't think I do. I think the same way when I see people with big sales numbers. I'm like, well, would I want to make 10 grand a month in profit? Sure. And maybe I will get there, but I don't want to work 70 hours a week to do it. Like that to me, like at some point there's got to be a balance where you can step away from the business and the time you're putting in this and go enjoy the fruits of your labor. And for me, like so many hours per week would just make it very difficult. I remember last fall at Amazon when I was working for them, we went on mandatory overtime for, I don't know, it was like at least 2 months. Might have been 3, maybe 2.5. I don't remember, but we went from working 40 hours a week to 55. So, and we went from working 4 days a week, 4 10-hour days, to now working 5 11-hour days. I'm going to tell you, it was brutal. All of us. And we didn't have a lot of work to do either. Like there really wasn't 55 hours of work a week. There just wasn't. We had like 5 of us, 6 of us, so we were, so it's like 330 hours, 6 times 55. And we didn't have 330 hours of work each week. There just wasn't. There was no reason for us to be there that long. But that was kind of our extended holiday schedule. And we all were miserable a few weeks. We're all just like, I mean, yeah, we were getting paid good. It was time and a half. It was overtime, for those 15 hours each week, which was nice. But all things considered, I don't feel like it was worth it. It wasn't life-changing money. It was just extra money, so there's just a law of diminishing returns there with what you're willing to do. Sorry, I probably missed some comments here. Paul says he lives in Philadelphia and the cost of living is high. I would think so. Lori Brackmeyer, happy to catch you live. Hey, Lori, how are you? Yeah, everybody's getting into a conversation about what their taxes are and their property tax. Don't even get me started on taxes. Yeah, Paul says he has 7 kids that play sports, and their sports fees alone is around $25K a year. So Paul's got to make that money and live in that cheaper part of the country in Indiana. I hear you, man. Paul, does your wife still help you? Yeah, Kaaren does help me with RA sourcing right now. She doesn't help me any with the OA really. I've shown her how to do certain things and so on, but her gig each week is, a full-time gig she has. And I love when she helps, but I don't really need the help. If that makes sense. Like this goes back to what can you really obtain? Wow. I put achieve and obtain together, guys. I'm pretty sure that's not a word. What can you really achieve if it's just you doing an Amazon business? And I think like one person, well, because I've known people who've done this. I know people who do this. I think one person can run a $200,000 to $300,000 a year Amazon business on their own. Just them. Literally no other help, no other prep and ship, nobody in their family, nobody they use, no contractors. You can sell $200,000 or $300,000 a year on Amazon just yourself. And I don't think, see, that's the other thing. Like I was watching that video of a guy who had like 30,000 listings up, and he had a bunch of storage units, and he was basically just showing each day. I think his channel is called A Boring Reseller Life, if you guys want to check it out. And he was just walking through the warehouse showing you what sold. Like, here's a cap, sold $9. Here's a cassette tape, sold for $4. It was a bunch of low dollar items. And he's making some profit from it for sure. But he's having to do a lot of work, would be my guess. Like he's having to spend a lot of time prepping and shipping and, sourcing all those items, taking photographs. I mean, he's got a lot of streamlined processes around it. He just tiers his pricing around 1 or 2 tiers, I think. But it was just a lot of work. I don't think you have to do that much work with Amazon to do that. I think you could send in, let's say he's selling 2,000 items a month, and he might be. That's 24,000 items a year. You could send in 24,000 items to Amazon. Let me see. Let me do some quick math here. What could 24,000 items be? 24,000 items. You could easily send in 100 unit shipments. So that's 240 shipments a year, which is 20 a month. And you could probably double some of those up and make them less. 20 a month is basically, 5 shipments. You're basically shipping every day, 100 units. I think like you could ship 100 units in like 3 hours, maybe less, depending on that. You're going to source them. Let's say you're doing OA sourcing. You could probably source 100 units in like maybe 5 hours total, maybe 5 hours. Maybe less. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think you could do it on Amazon probably in a lot less time than he's doing it. Like, I think it would be a full-time job. Like, if you were selling 2,000 units a month on Amazon, you're having to send in 2,000 units a month. It depends on the size of your shipments. Depends on what you're selling too. Like, if you're buying deeper into SKUs, that's the great thing about Amazon is selling new items. Like, let's say that you decide you want to sell this reinforced tape, right? It's got the lines through it. It's got like the string through it, so it's very strong. And let's say you normally only want to sell 5 of these. Every time you get 5, you send them in, and then you sell through on a few, and then you send another 5. But maybe you decide like the velocity is so great that like I could sell 10. Well, now you just order 10, and now you double the amount of units you're sending in, and it takes you very little extra time because you're just going to print 10 labels and put 10 labels on. Maybe now they go to 2 different places, but so what? But I think that you could really just scale your business up really quickly if you were doing Amazon and you had to send in a whole lot of units. But that's just my opinion. I also think it's more profitable. I don't know, like, I don't like knocking people's business models, but I'm always curious what their mindset is around them. Cause I started looking at it. Let's see if we can do this math together. You guys correct me if I'm wrong on this. I'm gonna share my screen again. So let's see. All right, so let's say that our wow, that's a big calculator. All right, so the guy he's got 30,000 units, right? So how much is he selling? I've heard tell that you might sell now anywhere from 0.5% of your inventory every day to 1%. Does everybody agree with those numbers? Do you think that's a reasonable amount? Do you think it should be higher or lower? Let's do it at 0.5%, which is what in the world am I putting in here? 0.5%. So he's selling 100. If he's selling at 0.5%, he's selling 150 units a day, right? So remember that number, 150 units a day. How long does it take you to go prep and ship 150 units a day? 150 different buyers, legitimately. Sadie says 1% is the average for him. Okay, and that could be the same here. So he's got 30,000 listings up, and this guy does have 30,000 listings up. So if he's selling 150 units a day, then he's got to go find them all. And let's see. So he's got 150, and how long is it taking him times? Excuse me. 150 times, is it 2 minutes, you think, from time to go get them to prep and ship? He's got to drop off the post office or else have them come and get them. Let's say he can have them come and get them. I think he's going to have to spend at least 2 minutes an item, don't you? Maybe even 3. So if he spends 3, and you divide that by 60 minutes, that's 7.5 hours. That doesn't make sense. He can't be spending that much. Hold on. We got something wrong here. 150 times 2 minutes an item, let's say, is 300 minutes. That is 5 hours a day just to ship. Every single day. That is 35 hours a week, right? Divided by 60 times 7 days a week. It's 35 hours a week just to prep and ship. What am I missing here? Has he gotten some quick? Does he have help? Has he gotten some quicker way to sell these, to prep and ship them? I mean, maybe it's not taking him that long. Maybe it's maybe it's only taking him a minute a day. So now he's got, oh wow, I'm bad at math. 150 divided by 60, that would be 2.5 hours a day to prep and ship every single day of the week. So he's spending 17.5 hours a week on, and that's 7 days a week. He's spending 17.5 hours just on prepping and shipping, right? Then he's got to list 150 units a day. How much time does it take him to list? I mean, I don't know. Like, does it take him 3 minutes? I could see that. That's 450 minutes a day divided by 60. 7.5 hours a day. All right, so something's not adding up in this math. So because now all he's done is listed items at 3 minutes of listing, which is really fast, but he's listed items at 3 minutes of listing because he's taking photos, and then he's prepping and shipping for 2.5 hours. He's spending 10 hours a day between prepping and shipping and listing. We haven't even put any time to source. I don't know. Am I missing it? Maybe I'm missing it because I don't know if it was you, Mr. Sadie, who talked about this guy. I can't remember who it was the other day. Like, I don't know how he's really doing it. He's generic, uses templates. Yeah, but he's still taking photos, right? Like, what am I missing here? Like, and we haven't even put in the time to source. We've not put any time in here to source. Like, I don't disbelieve that he's got 30,000 listings up. He does. His store showed it. I don't believe that he's selling a lot of units a day. I'm sure he is. He has to be with that many up, especially at those sales prices. But when you start figuring out the amount of work this is, like, this is a lot of work. Yeah, I don't know, but maybe I'd love to see his workflow in a day and like him break it out. Like, because he looks like he's a pretty organized guy with like spreadsheets and so on, which I always love. We know that, me and spreadsheets. But again, it goes back to, do you want to work? If he's selling 30K a month in sales, he's selling 30K a month, and it looks like his average selling price, I would guess, is probably somewhere around $9. So he's selling 3,000 units a month. If he's selling 30K and not at what do you net on a $9 item on eBay? I don't know what his shipping is. Somebody said they thought he was charging shipping. But anyway, like let's assume he's making $4 on each one, maybe $5 even. You know, he might be netting 15, 16K a month. Dude, more power to you if you're doing it all yourself, but you can't tell me in a million years that it wouldn't be worth spending $5,000, a third of that, on a couple people to help you. And your workload would go like this, and you'd still be making 10K a month. I you know, like just for them to do like the prepping and shipping, even just one person to come in and spend, I don't know, 2-3 hours. Like, I don't even think it would cost him $5,000 a month to have people to help him. Have somebody taking photos. Like, he could like break his time out so much better. So I don't know. I mean, everybody's got their own model, but I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to spend 75, 80 hours a week packaging and shipping 3,000 units a month. Even if I was making 15K a month, which I don't know if he's really making 15K, he's probably making less than that, but that seems like an awful lot of work for it. But I would love to see him do a breakdown. Maybe he will. I definitely will watch his channel. Sadie says 1% average is for him on per 100 listings. So 1 per 100 listings. Yep. A lot of people say 1% is good still. Mark says he's got a lot of thrift stores around him that he can be in and out of very quickly. He can source jeans from 5 thrift stores in 2 hours. Yeah, but I could do the same thing, Mark, when I was sourcing jeans. For sure. You're absolutely right. But you have to, in his case, you have to be sourcing over 100 units a day, every single day of the week. Every single day. Now, I don't know about you with jeans, but the amount of time for me to source 100 units, I guess if I was selling them at a lower price, but he's not selling, well, he's doing probably the bins, right? It'd still take a few hours. Like, there's just no way. I mean, you can't go in there and get 100 pair of jeans in the bins in like an hour. I mean, you could, but you're really going to be taking a lot of stuff that ends up just being crap. And I guess at 50 cents, it doesn't matter. So like he's spending, if he's selling 3,000 units a month, I mean, he's spending 1,500 on, his sourcing and so on, but he's got to be going there. He's buying 3,000 units. Like, how long would it take you to source 3,000 units at the bins? And I assume that's where he's getting, but maybe he's doing bulk of some sort. I don't know. I guess you could do other things too. I would love to see him screen share and walk through this process because he's got to have some amazing. Yeah, Mark says he doesn't do the bins, but buys them for $1 to maybe $2. Yeah, but this guy we're talking about, Mark, his average cost is under 50 cents per item. So he's not even. He's doing the bin. Okay, the bins. Yeah. So I mean, he's doing the bins, and that makes sense. You can definitely get items for 50 cents if it's by weight, the weigh and pay. He's selling a lot of hats. Hats are low weight. I don't even know what a hat would cost the bins. Maybe a dime, in terms of the weight, maybe 15 cents. So sure, little, t-shirts. I didn't see him selling a whole bunch of jackets and coats and things like that, but maybe he does sell some of them. Yeah, it's a fascinating story. I'd like to kind of hear more. I'd like to watch more about this guy, see what's going on. But yeah, so if you guys, whatever your goals are with Amazon or eBay or wherever you're selling at, if you want to, you really need to break it down and see how much money you're really making at the end of the day. It might not be as much as you think when you take out all the expenses. Granted, if you're selling, a huge volume, if you're selling $500,000 a year on Amazon, even if you're only making, 10%, it's 50 grand without even breaking a sweat. You're probably going to make more than that. You're probably going to make more like 20 or 25. So yeah, you're going to make 100K, and not have to spend ridiculous amounts of hours to do it, which is what I love about the Amazon model. So, but just know your numbers. Like I've always said for years. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for now. Leave me a question or comment down below. I'll catch up with you guys soon. I hope you all have a very good weekend. If you're working, don't work too hard. Stay safe. And if you're not working, enjoy it and enjoy this great start of fall we seem to be having here in a lot of parts of the country. And I will see you all soon.